Democracy has failed in Nigeria simply because institutions are not sustainable. You elect somebody under a certain political party today, tomorrow he jumps into another political party. Whereas
the other one is on this internal wrangling they're having for some time.
Constitutional if there is crisis.
Right.
But most times, like what we experience in Nigeria system is that people create that crisis. The crisis in Labour Party was deliberately created by people that were elected. If, as a man, you have a wife, you have children, and one of your children says, or somebody came to lay claim to your house, and one of your sons now decide to go and meet that person that came and lay claim to your house and said, you are right, this is actually your house, it's not my father's house. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. So if there is crisis, it bestows, the onus lies on the members of the family to sit down together on the table and say, okay, there is crisis, how do we resolve it? As a family. And you look into it, look at the merit of those crises, and you resolve it internally. Not for you to now expose yourself and say it's one political leader that infiltrated your house. They are the one that infiltrated themselves, caused the crisis, consolidated on the crisis, and used it to perpetuate evil. But the point you've made is this, and let me tell you this. It's true that there is no constitutional backing to what a political party is doing. But don't forget that there is a constitution of every political party. It's a free entry and free exit. If you come and you want to run an election in Labour Party today, or in NDC, and they tell you that if you emerge as a candidate, that you are going to take oath of allegiance, that you are not going to leave our mandate. It is in their constitution, it is in their guideline. You obey the constitution of that house. If you feel at that point that you don't like the position of the party.
Every political party's constitution is subject to the Nigerian constitution.
Every political party's constitution, the moment a house agrees that this is what will bind us, it binds them. That is what that is the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says. If the house, no, party supremacy, that's what party supremacy stands for. If the party says that once you win an election, that you are not going to defect, put it on paper that you are not going to defect, and you put it on paper, it's their internal affair. That is what the Supreme Court calls internal affair of the party. So if the Supreme Court have said that it's party's internal affair, and that no court in Nigeria has the power to interfere with the party, that is why a political party can decide today that they no longer like this man to run their election. They will give their reasons and they will make their nominations. It is party that nominates who represent them. So if we want to represent, if you want us to represent you, like the party wants me to represent them in the presidential election, and they feel that I will leave the party if I emerge as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, they can put me on oath to say that if we win an election, that I'm not going to defect. And if I sign in, the Supreme Court will say, did you read it? I say yes. Did you confirm that this is what they want as internal democracy, binding them based on party supremacy? I said yes. Supreme Court will say, so be it. Because they will lay it on me and I will read it and I will understand it. If it's Igbo, Hausa or Yoruba, they will interpret it for me and I will endorse it, append my signature. After that, my brother, the Supreme Court of Nigeria cannot upturn it.
Okay, let's do had its primaries across the 36 states of the Federation, and we nominated all our candidates, both House of Assembly, House of Representatives, and Senate. We also did the primaries for the presidency. And let me also use the opportunity for some of you that do not know to tell you that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Prince Kennedy Ahanotu, is here. The procedure is that we will send all our nominated candidates to INEC at the appropriate time. And from there, we'll take it up. But as for if we abided by the Constitution and electoral laws, we did. that exactly. Thank you so much.
You didn't tell them that Congress is.
No, there's no need. They didn't ask me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I didn't introduce. Okay. I didn't introduce the persons, the national.
Yeah, I used to shout at people in the kitchen. You think I see?
Lifu's judgment. Okay, still on that Justice Lifu's judgment, I want to ask if you.
Sound check, sound check, sound check.
The Labour Party, and we're here to address a press conference on the vindication of the party's position on the judgment so far delivered by Justice Peter Lifu. The leadership of the Labour Party has been watching with keen interest the development in the political sphere in Nigeria, particularly with the recent miscarriage of justice perpetuated and done by Justice Peter Lifu of the Federal High Court, Abuja. It's quite unfortunate that his illegal and embarrassing conducts have finally come to the head. The problem with most Nigerians is whenever something happens to Paul, Peter will say it does not concern him. And when it happens to Peter, John will say, how did that concern him? When Justice Peter Lifu gave the questionable judgment against Labour Party leadership, nobody spoke up. Today he has visited other parties and everybody is crying blue murder. When he miscarried justice against the Labour Party, I had expected some Nigerians, prominent Nigerians, courageous Nigerians, to condemn it, but they waited till some other persons were affected. It must be noted that apart from the deregistration of ADC and some other political parties, Justice Peter Lifu has willfully embarked on actions capable of endangering or even truncating our democracy through his judicial rascality and his continuous miscarriage of justice. We in Labour Party are worst hit by the judgment of Justice Peter Lifu. I want to state as follows. On the 7th of October 2025, in suit number FHC/ABJ/CS/2119/2025, filed by Senator Nanadi Usman against INEC. This matter, which was on the Labour Party's National Convention that was held on the 27th of March 2024, was assigned to Justice J.K. Omotosho. Ordinarily, Justice Omotosho had delivered two judgments, thus giving vent and very legal opinion on the National Convention of the party. May I just say that in those judgments, Omotosho made it clearly that the convention was legit, it was valid in both occasions. We are very happy and had expected that justice will be done by Justice Omotosho. Curiously, after we had joined all the issues and filed all the papers, the matter was discontinued on the 28th of October 2025. Another matter was then filed via suit number FHC/ABJ/CS/202262/2025 by the same parties and the same subject matter. But this time, the presiding judge of the Federal High Court now assigned the matter to Justice Peter Lifu. This was our first major red flag. We suspected that something was in the offing. In any event, because we have a very good case, we decided to continue with the matter. The second red flag on Justice Lifu was that when the matter came up for hearing, the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, filed a motion for a joinder and raised a lot of fundamental issues that apparently negated our positions. So it was very imperative that we needed to respond to all those issues raised by the NLC. On the basis of this fresh motion, we asked for an adjournment to enable us to do responses to some of those things that came up. Justice Peter Lifu, however, decided to descend on the arena and insisted that the matters must go on. On that day, without allowing us to respond, he insisted that the matter must go on the same day. I've never seen where that is done. He didn't even allow us a day to come with a response. He insisted on his court that the matter must go on, even when there is a new matter before us by the Nigerian Labour Congress. So it was obvious that something was cooking up. So he refused all attempts for us to respond to those issues, and he insisted that the matter must be heard the same day. He was acting like a man in a hurry to conclude a task and to meet up with a target, because you didn't allow us to also respond to matter. Why would it be so? So there was no reason for him not to have allowed us to respond to the claims. Even if for a short adjournment, it was there and then that we started suspecting that there must be a lot more than we can see. In any event, because we don't want to be unruly to the court, we decided that the matter should go on. He heard it that day because he insisted, and adjourned for judgment. And he eventually did the hardest job. For their sake, Governor Alex Otti and Senator Nenadi Usman. We took a lot of things for granted because we thought that having a good case, there is nothing a reasonable judge could do about the matter. Ladies and gentlemen, we had every reason to have protested, petitioned, and to have done a whole lot of things because Alex Otti himself convened a meeting in Abia where he boasted and assured his people that he will get a judgment. It was all over the internet and social media how they were jubilating while expecting the judgment even before the judgment day. What a sad thing. It was very clear that they knew what would be the outcome of the judgment. In his judgment, Justice Lifu advocated to himself the supervisory role over the Supreme Court, and he willfully misinterpreted the Apex Court, the Supreme Court. We want to say that as at now, that judgment of the Federal Court could negate, and it is against all known principles of law. Is it the principle of law where court says that the issue of leadership are internal affairs of the party? nor the principle that no court has the powers to interpret a decision or give effect to the decision of the Supreme Court, or even that of the doctrine of fair hearing that must be adhered to. All these are established principles of law that Justice Lifu judgment was against. He completely ignored all these principles. We are, however, happy that we have indicated by the recent judgment of Justice Lifu, where he ordered INEC to deregister 5 political parties. This has no doubt brought his character and behavior to the fore. In any event, our only regret, however, is that this same judgment delivered by Justice Lifu was also reaffirmed by the Court of Appeal. Regrettably, we believe that the Supreme Court will do justice to the matter and do the right thing, being the final court of remedy in Nigeria. I want to say very clearly that our democracy, party politics, and the rule of law, our Constitution, and the Electoral Act are under serious threat. It is on this basis that I want to call on the courageous judges of the Supreme Court to rise to the occasion and steer our ship of judiciary out of where it is currently headed to. Because if the courts continue in this manner, it will be very clear that our democracy is heading towards destruction. Finally, the Supreme Court must rise up and behave like the Supreme Court of the old. We know of some of those courageous judges, like Justice Chukwudipu Oputa, Justice Kehinde Shaw, Justice Patricia Akure, Justice Karibe White, amongst other Supreme Court judges who defended courageously and fought for the principles of law which they swore to uphold. This is the time for the National Judicial Council to rise up and defend democracy and the rule of law. This is because the image of this all-important institution, important arm of government, is being eroded, knowing that this is how nations fall and destroy their democracy. Thank you so much. So we want to ask for, if you have any question.
Sound check. Sound check.
It's getting too much. Try
Okay,
to
we should share
understand
that.
a bit.
Advert a repeat. Going by what they just did recently, I don't know if you have heard about their oath taking and anti-defection part that they force on a candidate who wins election.
I would like to state categorically clear today that you can go back to that same young man that made that declaration that they've not been served, that there's nothing like Supreme Court. I advise you go back today and ask him, is there any process ongoing at the Supreme Court? Let's know his response. Thank you. That's for the issue of the Supreme Court. Secondly, the issue of the NDC giving oaths of allegiance to their numerous members. You know, we are in this part of the world where we have many politicians that I can simply call pepper soup don politicians. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the political leaders in Nigeria referred to them as Mama Food is ready. You know, those are the kind of people that take opportunity. They are opportunists. So they are now feasting on NDC. And it's a wise thing that Dixon-led leadership and party management and administrators have done, which ab initio, we trying to grow the party, we felt that we are dealing with true Democrats. And the party at that point never looked at considering pressing an oath on them. So what NDC is doing is very, very healthy. And it will encourage sustainable institutional development. Because democracy has failed in Nigeria simply because institutions are not sustainable. You elect somebody under a certain political party today, tomorrow he jumps into another political party. Whereas you can be a member of Labour Party and still offer meaningful service to the government in place. Our democracy is not a war. It's democracy to make it work for the people and by the people. So a member of Labour Party, a member of SDP, a member of PDP, like the Minister of FCT is doing, can support the government and make sure that there is good governance, dish out to this populace. So what NDC have done, for me, I think is a healthy thing. It will make those people that will win election eventually, that will emerge from that platform, to know that it's no longer a tea party. That once you win election under a political party, you must stay there, you must build that political party, you must let it grow, so that there will be, a future of that institution. So I think
they learn from your mistake.
definitely they learned from the mistakes that happened to Labour Party. Of course, Labour Party is the worst hit, like the National Public Secretary have said. If you look at what has happened over these past years, you understand that there is a miscarriage of justice. That what we have in Nigeria is conspiracy of the elites. The moment elites goes one side, the populace will tend to believe that that is where the power is. I can tell you categorically clear that the leadership of the Labour Party is not with Nenade Osman and Ale Soti. It still remains under the control of Barrister Julius Abure Ledesco.
Don't you think that the issue, especially with what NDC has done, just to follow up with what my brother took up from, don't you think that doing that and moving from
The limitations and the constitution of every party, every political party is the ground norm. And so when you have provisions of the constitution that doesn't, contradict the constitution, you are good to go. And this aspect is talking about has no contradiction when you look at the freedom of association provision in the constitution. There's limitation, you have a limitation. You must be qualified. And every constitution has a provision that says that the interest of the political party must be the responsibility of all members. So when you are coming in, it is the interest of the political party for peace to reign, for you to sustain institutional development of the political party. Okay? So to that extent, it has not contradicted the constitution. And so when you now try as much as possible to guide the interest of the political party, there's no way that has contradicted the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's only strengthening it and also close room to mischief and criminal acts. Those who want to perpetrate crime in the name of being politicians, it closes the door against them. And that is exactly what I think the NDC have borrowed from the mistakes of Labour Party. All right, so if we have the opportunity again, we will do more than what the NDC has done.
Well, another question I wanted to ask is, activities has actually moved on. INEC timeline for presentation of candidates for each political party is actually passed. I'm wondering whether this faction followed with these activities. Who is your presidential candidate? Who is your gubernatorial candidate? Who is your house of representatives? Did this particular
Okay, maybe I will answer that question. The answer is yes. The party tell them your name.
Okay. My name is Mrs. Ngozi Johannes Dog.
Mrs. Ngozi Dog, and the special advisor on media to the national chairman, Barrister Ambassador Aju Morgan Lumelo. Thank you. Democracy will be resisted. The appeal court has said or given stay of execution. I think the right thing to do is to allow the appeal court to look at the matter and see how they can come in and strengthen democracy. So it is not proper for Justice Lifu to rush into making that judgment a day to the day he knows that the appeal court will be sitting. And that is what we are talking about. It looks as if the man is moved by influence. Because if he knows that the appeal court has powers over the lower court, and there is already a state of execution, it does not have the power, according to hierarchy of the judiciary, to go into that judgment. So that is exactly what we are pointing out here, that the National Judicial Council should look into this matter. It goes beyond pronouncing judgment. There has to be a reason why he had to jump gun. And funny enough, that very day he was asked whether he knew that this matter was before the appeal court. He said he knew. So what prompted him to go into that judgment? Why would he go into that judgment? So it is basic. This stay of execution by the appeal court was in order, and they should be allowed to look into that matter. There are a whole lot of things involved in that matter. And let me also ask you, why give that judgment now? Why have you not given that judgment a long time? You allow the political parties to sell forms, make presentation, brought people to go and contest. So what do you want those people to do? What would you want those people to do? If you had started this matter, because it's been in the Constitution, it's been in the electoral law. If you know that the Constitution says if these people didn't meet so and so thing, then you do it from day one. And why would you allow on the period when the election was already ongoing? There's a process ongoing. So I think that must be investigated. Beyond the judgment that the man rushed to give, it must be investigated. There must something that has influenced the man. I'm sure my other groups will talk. Now, for some members, or some of our former members, who are calling for us to drop the matter from Supreme Court, do they even have the right to ask us? They are not our members again. They are the beneficiaries of the rogue convention that was held by the Nenadi group. The matter is that a matter is already ongoing. We have asked the Supreme Court to allow us to look into this matter dispassionately. So we have the right, we have the power under the Constitution to explore all legal means to the last point of the Court of Redress. So nobody can ask us not to. Because from day one, we knew that they are standing on a shaky ground. They don't even have the legitimacy to stand and say that they are contesting the election. Because their assumption of office is illegal. The party constitution is very clear. For you to assume, for you to have a convention or anything at that level, the national chairman, in consultation with the national secretary, will have to convene a meeting. Which national chairman and national secretary convened the meeting that they went to hold in Umuahia in September 2024. That was the genesis of the whole thing. So everything they have done afterwards is like somebody building a house on a sand. It cannot stand. And curious enough, judges, not one, not two, judgment have come to say that even the convention that we had in Inewi was valid. Now what happened to that convention that the court said was valid? And they are looking at pointing a hand at the Supreme Court. Supreme Court never said that the convention was invalid. Supreme Court never said it for one day. And Supreme Court never said that the tenure of that administration was over. The Supreme Court is not an author of confusion. So that tenure that produced this executive gave the mandate for a 4-year term, and it's still standing. No matter what anybody does. What the Supreme Court simply said was that everybody should go home. That is an internal party affair. Leadership matter was an internal party affair. For Livu to begin to interpret the judgment of a Supreme Court is itself an affront to the judiciary, and he must be taking note of that. Anybody that errs must go into it, must serve the necessary punishment. And that is the essence of this whole interview that we are here. I would like my brother, the youth leader, to talk on the oath by the NDC. You understand?
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You take them.
Go ahead.
Okay, the third one is still on this Nena Usman, spokesman, who said he doubted Abure's Apex Court appeal because their leadership has not been served.
Wow.